The July 19th meeting of the Conservation Commission. In accordance with requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over Lunenburg Public Access. We'll start with roll call. Richard Burge is present. Todd Dwyer.
Present.
Bob Pease. Carl Luck.
Present.
Jack Rabbit. Present. And Ken Jones is not. All right, and we'll start with public comment from commissioners. Do we have any public comment from commissioners?
Yes, I have a public comment. As you guys know, and many people know in the audience, I live on Lake Shirley, and I'm very happy about that. But as a person who drives around Lake Shirley a lot, I see a lot of what's going on the lake, and I quite often find myself in a very uncomfortable and quandary when I see things going on the lake that haven't come before this commission. And I am torn because I don't want to, I'm not here to turn in my neighbors, but I am here to enforce the regulations, so I'm really feel caught betwixt and between on that. And to add insult to injury, I've been accused in these meetings of turning in my neighbors, which was not true. I've also had, I believe the same people write letters to the Ethics Commission complaining about me not turning in my neighbors and seeing things that I didn't report. So I really find it hard to win in this situation. And I'm just reaching out to the commission here to see if there's something we could do. I keep asking for a public education outreach to the people around the lakes, primarily Lake Shirley. I think Hickory Hills, due to the lake management organization, is people are pretty aware of the rules, and the management organization is, so they help us police. But I don't want to single out Lake Shirley. I think we need to make sure that people on the lakes understand that any work within 100 feet of the lake, or wetlands, but the lake in this case, needs to come before the commission. And as I say, I'm driving around this weekend, and I see several places where trees are being removed, walls are being built. I'm not turning any of them in, but I would like the commission's help, the chairman's, in terms of how I might proceed, because I'm getting it from both ends if I do and if I don't, and I need some help. And I think the one good thing we have at Lake Shirley, and you see in the crowd, we have a pretty active association that has a web mailing to many residents beyond their membership even, that could be utilized to educate people. I'd like to believe that people are doing these things because they don't know the rules. I think it behooves us to educate people. So I think the minimum we should do is try to enlist the association's help to get a mailing out to alert people that they really need to come to us. It's not burdensome, but they really need to come to us if they're going to do anything really within 100 feet of the lake. So I would recommend, maybe as a start, some mailing and some help from the LSIC on getting that word out to people, and any recommendations that people have for me personally as how to deal with this conflict. Because there may be letters being written right now because I drove around and I didn't report people. I don't know. Sounds outrageous, but it's true. So anyway, that's my public comment and my cry for help.
Chairman, if I could add that. It's a similar conundrum with regard to Bob and myself living on the lake. We try to at every opportunity. We're regular members, sitting members in the LMG process. We do try to continually advise. If we see a violation or a potential violation, we actually get in contact with the president of the association, as you've seen. And we try to give them an opportunity to make some sort of amends before I really do bring them in. But on the other hand, when we took this position, we said that we would uphold Mass Wetlands Protection Act. We would help protect our town's water supply. So in a sense, that's what we're really doing, and it is hard. And I agree with Carl here that whatever we can do to heighten the education efforts is what we want to be doing. And we're not there to try and hurt people. We're just trying to protect our lakes, our water. And sometimes it's hard. And I've been chastised on a number of occasions and get-togethers with regard to why are you doing this? Why are you making it so hard for us? No, I'm not. I'm trying to protect my grandchildren's future at the Gargoyle Lake, so,
It definitely is a narrow tightrope to walk,
yeah.
being a commissioner and trying to uphold the Wetlands Protection Act and do what we think is going to help in the long run to protect the wetlands.
We swore to it, so,
So I do feel for Carl, because it does happen. It does seem to happen to you a little more often than some of the other members. I do feel bad for you, but, yeah, like Jack said, I mean, we did take an oath to uphold the law and do what we can to even be the public outreach ourselves sometimes, so.
It's
Just
happened-
been quiet
it's
to
happened
go
to me
out and talk to,
My own neighborhood.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one comment on that. Carl, I appreciate your comments, and just as a member of the commission, I think if we see something, we have to bring it forward to our conservation agent, let him check it out, and then it comes before the commission. It's no one commissioner's decision. It's not we have to have a quorum, we have to have 4 members agree that there's something going on there, or it gets dismissed. So personally, I think if I see something, I bring it up to Matt, and if he feels it warrants enforcement, then he brings it up and puts it before the commission, and that's that. I mean, there are cases where things will go on that even now, they were decided upon before we were on the commission. And we can run into those cases as well, that we might not just have knowledge of what was planned there. So that's my 2 cents.
I appreciate the feedback and support, quite frankly, so.
something we can address moving forward also, because I know Matt is doing public outreach through the newspaper. Unfortunately, it takes a while, so.
Yeah. But I would like to hammer just on that, the LSIC has a tool that reaches probably 3/4 of the lake or more, just to send out an email, and perhaps just a short statement like Matt has done before on the video, email thing that they could send out, just so people know, because there's turnover, and people, buy a place and they don't really, understand, and so they go in and they refresh their breach or put up, they just don't know. So that would be good.
If you get a second, maybe to reach out to the LSIC to see if you can add an article to their next emailing.
May I make a comment?
Yeah, just grab a microphone, Jack, if you give her this one.
Sorry. So, I have to push it, right?
no, it's good. It's
Oh,
live.
awesome.
Nope.
So I'm Ashley Braun, I'm at 607 Reservoir. So I'm a member of the LSIC directors. I'm actually one of, there's a few different admins for the Facebook page. So if the commission would be willing, if you want to put together a fact sheet or a tip sheet, something like a poster that I could post, we could post that online. We could, of course, reach out to Joanna, we could send the same thing out in an email. I would agree, a lot of people don't know. You move onto a lake, I'm relatively new. When I moved, I went down to Matt's office, I had a chat with him, just asking him about some of the things the commission does, what is okay, what is not okay. Not everybody does that. So if you guys want to put together a poster or something, I'm more than happy to review it and post it. I think from a mailing perspective, as an association, because, I mean, stamps I know are minimal, but we're trying to watch our budget as well, so we would prefer to do email and social media as opposed to a hard copy in the mail.
Cool.
But if Matt has my email,
Yes, I do.
so Matt can send that to me if you guys want to work on
Oh,
it.
that's great.
I'll have him reach out.
Thank you.
That's great.
All right, any other comments from commissioners? Any comments from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll start. Due to advertising issues, 11 Beechwood Road will not be opened and will need to be re-advertised. Is anybody here for 11 Beechview Ave? 39 Old Farm Road will need to be re-advertised and will not be open this evening. Anybody here for Old Farm Road? 225 Sunset Lane will not be open this evening due to advertising issues. Do we have okay, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a continued public meeting on a request for determination by Celico Partners DBA Verizon Wireless for work at 1079 Mass Ave will be held. Work entails the installation of a 75-foot monopole with a 100-foot buffer zone. Application supporting documents are available for review in the Conservation Office. All right, they did submit us the updated plans. We can review quickly. One for you guys on that side. So basically, they're resubmitting the plans following our request that they move outside of the 50-foot no structure zone with their generator and electronic cabinets.
I think the page before should be. There's another one that showed.
C5.
D5? Nope. D6. So that's the shed. It was on this side, which was inside the 50-foot no structure. And then moved it to the far side, which is now outside
out of
the
the buffer
50-foot, and
Fantastic.
half of the work is outside of the buffer to completely.
150, 30.
Yeah, the interesting thing is,
Yep, and the
shed.
tower itself is outside of the 100.
the interesting thing is, when they had originally filed, they had expressed that this area was where all the other boards had said it should go, and they weren't sure how they would react, and the second they found out we wanted it moved over, everybody was like, fine, move it.
Yeah, I watched planning board.
This
and I
is
didn't know it was
existing
too
shed,
much.
I'm not, it's just a gravel, that's the gravel turnaround. I think it's just showing the fenced area, so they must have like some transformers or something like that, right? by there.
It's inside the 100 though,
What's that?
Yeah, but it's outside the 50.
outside the 50, okay.
Yeah, so this is the tower, and then they must have some associated equipment in that fenced area adjacent to it.
Well, I think in next to the shed fenced
Yep.
in area, there's a propane tank, a propane generator, and electronics cabinets.
Yep.
And then there are lines that go from there with the electric out to the tower.
Yep.
But all of that, I don't know if Jack saw it before, all of that was inside the 50-foot no structure zone.
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if I can even participate in this because I didn't see the minutes.
Okay, you didn't fill out a Mullins?
No,
All right.
no, so I would have to recuse myself, which would automatically cause a problem.
Oh, we'll just continue it then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to continue it until we don't have 4 voting members.
Looks good.
All right, yeah, I'll accept a motion to continue this hearing to August 2nd. Is that our next?
So moved.
Motion with a second.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All right. You did get a chance, Jack, to fill out the Mullins
Yeah.
on that.
Just haven't, like, so many minutes yet.
Well, that was televised. I believe this was for, or
That's what it was. That's what it was.
There's at least a,
And that's the one I
Audio.
missed. Right.
the audio
Yeah,
should be
the
online.
380
21st it was
megabytes.
Yeah.
I have not seen it.
Was it 21st? What, Matt, did you say? What was the date of the meeting? The
21st.
21st.
A month ago.
I believe I sent you guys out the draft minutes anyway.
All right, I'll continue till August 2nd. All right, moving forward, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. In the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a continued determination, request for determination. Work entails stepping stones and adding gravel under a deck for stabilization at 58 Hemlock Drive. Anybody here for 58 Hemlock Drive?
Told him he should be here, 'cause I know he emailed me and asked. That's the guy with the steps and the pencil drawing. In fact, I got an email from him yesterday.
On the south side of Hickory Hills.
He asked on the 18th, just wondering what the next step is in our proposed step renovation. Do I wait for an answer to the next meeting? And I put, hi there, yes, we came up over the weekend, and please come to the meeting tomorrow so we can wrap this up for you. And his response was, okay, great.
All right, well, we'll continue it for now. If he shows up, we can reopen it. I'll accept the motion to continue 58 Hemlock Drive until later in the meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, let's sit back to, we had an appointment for LSIC for an update on weed control. Come down, Dominic.
Hi, folks.
You down?
Well, thanks for putting us on the agenda this evening. We have an update for you, just in terms of the planned second treatment. Just first, a note, the first treatment we did for the curly leaf pondweed seemed to work really well. We did not see any curly leaf pondweed out there during our last survey, so.
How much did you end up? I think you added that.
We added like 2.5 acres, so it ended up doing like 32
Okay.
acres, yeah. So that's a good sign. So we did the official point survey on July 5th, and, you know, based on the lake management plan, the arrangement was that any area, any data point that had a biomass or a plant density of over 3 would be a potential candidate for management. So, and again, this year, what we did, as you know, we split the treatment into 2 phases with an early season survey just for curly leaf pondweed and milfoil, and then a treatment, and then we basically pushed the survey out a little bit later so that we'd get more data, more real data or appropriate data for the native plants like the naiad and the tape grass. We felt that, you know, the surveys in June were probably showing a little bit low data on biomass and density because the plants were just starting to grow at that time. So that is the reason why we pushed things out until July to get more appropriate or more reasonable data with the growth cycle. And it turns out that did in fact come to fruition. So we had a number of points where we had actually a biomass and density factor of 3 or greater, which means a greater than 50% density of plants and a greater than 50% growth through the water column. And as you might remember from our year-end report, last year's treatment was very limited. And by the end of the summer, we had a number of areas that were very topped out with tape grass, specifically, that weren't treated. So what I did on this map here was I took the fall survey data points from October of 2016 and also the July data points from this most recent survey, and I basically plotted any points that had both density and biomass of 3 or greater. Does anybody need an extra copy of this?
That'd be great.
I brought some with me so you can follow along.
Thanks, Chair. Do you need a copy?
No, I got this. If you get an extra one, great, thanks.
So again, I plotted out the October 2016 data points and the recent July survey that had a biomass and density of over 3, and basically plotted those points on the map and basically drew, overlaid a treatment area map, which is the first map in the package. So the treatment areas envelope all those data points from 2016 and 17 that had those higher density and biomass factors. Unfortunately, the area came out to about 90 acres. I think part of that is, okay, we're using data from 2 years, but also, as you know, last year's treatment was very limited in terms of what had been done in the past. So there was definitely some areas, given the timing of the surveys last year, that probably should have been treated but weren't because the data wasn't reflective of the growth cycle. So we have a lot of areas that were not treated last year, and I think that shows quite apparently this year. So we're asking approval to treat these areas with the Diclot Reward herbicide, and also either a low dose of Nautique, which is a copper-based herbicide, or copper sulfate, and that's to enhance the control of the Vallisneria, the tape grass, which is a little more resilient to just the Reward herbicide. I think overall, looking at the data, this last year in the fall showed tape grass super dense. I think this year's data probably shows more of a dominance of probably of Naiad. And the reports I've been getting from folks on the lake is that the Naiad is breaking free off the bottom and floating around and bunching up along the shoreline. So I think there's definitely a mix of Vallisneria and Naiad, but I think in general terms, this year the Naiad's worse, and last year the tape grass is worse. So I'm not planning, or we're not planning to have to add the Nautique and copper sulfate to all of these areas. We'll kind of make a decision based on real-time observation of each area as we treat it, whether it seems to be significant amounts of tape grass or whether it really is dominated by Naiad, in which case we would not use the additive copper product there. So,
Hey, just in reviewing, how many acres did you treat last year?
I don't have that with me, but
Because I'm just looking at the proposed from last year, and you treated 95 acres last year.
was it? Last year we did 95 acres.
Proposed 2016 treatment, 95 acres.
But that was a lot of different areas, so.
That was a lot more on the north
And
basin.
that was more so for the curlew fish.
Yep, because you were out in the middle quite a bit.
Yeah, so I mean, you're right, I did misspeak. The area,
Yeah.
quantity-wise, I think the areas were similar, but, the distribution of the areas was more targeted towards the curlew pondweed and not so much for the tape grass and Naiad at that point.
Yeah.
This year, having done the curlew pondweed treatment earlier in the season and it being pretty limited due to the treatment last year, this treatment here is definitely more focused on the tape grass and the Naiad areas.
I don't have the chart in front of me. You and I were talking about that with regard to drawdown and plants that are affected.
Yep.
And I don't recall if Naiad or tape grass were affected.
Naiad is generally not affected by drawdown. It's mostly a seed-bearing
Right.
plant. Tape grass is one of those ones that is kind of doesn't really go either way. It's generally not
Neutral.
Neutral,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's the perennial plants like milfoil, fanwort. Those are ones that are typically well controlled with drawdown.
And last year, you did not use the copper. It looks like you're
We did not.
recommending it for this year.
Yeah, copper additive is mostly for the tape grass because it is a resilient plant, and a lot of times with the Reward Diclot does not by itself give us control, especially where we're treating a little bit later this year as well than we have in the past, so the tape grass is a little more mature than it had been in like 2015 and prior when we were doing the treatments. So.
And using the copper, is that going to change your notification or your non-use of the lake?
Nope.
No, doesn't
No,
change anything?
the Diclot herbicide is really what governs the water use restrictions.
Okay.
Yeah, the copper products only have really no restrictions on the label, or we would put in a day's restriction, which we would have anyways because of the reward.
Okay.
And you'll notice that, I mean, there were a few points that we did not put a treatment area around, that were adjacent to wooded shorelines, you know, that didn't have high recreational uses, so, so those weren't treated, or weren't proposed to be treated. And also there's a few points down in the third lake, the South Basin, that's within 1,000 feet of the town of Shirley border, which is, based on our permitting with them, we're not allowed to do any herbicide treatment within 1,000 feet of the town of Shirley border.
And it looks like, at least last year, when you did your pre-treatment testing, it was low, and now it's high down there in that
Yep.
little sliver to the south.
I think last year we actually did the survey in the end of May, I believe, and this year, so we're over a month later
Yep.
this year than we were last year. As the treatment is tentatively scheduled, we had written in the 26th on this memo, it's actually it's tentatively scheduled for the 27th. There were some groups using the lake on the 26th, so we bumped it to Thursday, the 27th. Posters and notices are ready to go.
Okay. That's dictated by the order conditions.
Yep.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I do have a number of questions or comments that I'd like to go through. First, I generally, I reviewed it in detail, and also took a ride around the lake and did some of my own throwing of rakes and things today, just so I had firsthand observations. In general, I agree with what you have here, and generally confirmed the 17 survey, so that's good. A few discrepancies I'd like to talk about a little. In general, I'm a little concerned about the two things. One is the direction we're going. The NIAID, which you've stated several times, was the target, and in the proposal, which was very good because you explained, what the motivation was, NIAID and the tape grass, and I can absolutely 110% agree that tape grass was a disaster last year, and hopefully we get a handle on that. But the NIAID is really the only invasive species. We're really starting to just focus on non-invasive species, and that's just a conceptual concern with me, a philosophical concern, because we're really, in those cases, we're really going after recreational impairment, so the criteria, shifts a little bit. But the NIAID, the report, unless I read it wrong, Dominic, kind of says different things than what we just heard, because in the report, NIAID was only observed at 8 of the 64 sites, and only one of those sites where NIAID was observed is in the treatment area. So, it doesn't seem consistent with the argument that NIAID was the big concern and was causing a lot of it.
You're talking about this year's treatment?
This year's, yeah.
No, it's not really not the non-native NIAID, it's actually, a lot of it was the native NIAID that we, so the top line on the table.
The top.
There's a mix of the native NIAID and the non-native NIAID. By and large, it was dominated by the native species of NIAID.
Hang on 1 minute, I thought that, I'm not sure what NIAID is anymore. When you say the top line.
Top line's the
bushy pondweed?
Bushy pondweed?
Bushy pondweed.
Yeah, bushy,
That is native or non-native?
That is native.
That is native, okay.
so that's native because it's not in red, right?
There again,
Okay.
the management.
So again, so even that one then speaks to the concern over, we're almost solely attacking native plants. So it should be driven by criteria of recreational impairment.
Well, I mean, again, the
Or
management
what?
which we presented to the commission a number of times had the wording in there that we would go after any presence of non-native species, but that we had the criteria of the greater than 50% or the 3-factor of density and the 3-factor of biomass was our written into the management plan as our criteria for going after others?
Yeah, and I absolutely, that is in the plan, and that's what we should stick to. What concerns me is we've now, if we strictly stay to that criteria, which is the plan, based on the 2017 survey, there would be significantly less treatment. Because it's been extended to pull in the 2016 data, that causes a significant increase. As you very well, I like the graphic, you very well show here, because the green X's, the pluses, meet that criteria this year. And if we stuck to the lake management plan as it's written, we would be focused on treating just the area with green X's. Okay? The other thing that I do agree with, though, I would agree, even if we want to change management plan, and again, we shouldn't be using different criteria than the lake management plan without discussing it and changing the plan, and so everybody buying into that new strategy. So that concerns me a little bit.
Well, that's why I wanted to be really clear and upfront
Yeah.
about how we did it this year. And I think,
Right.
this was because of the condition of the lake at the end of last year. I felt that information was very important in terms of what's gonna happen out the lake this
Right.
year. So, I mean, that's why we did it.
Yeah,
that way.
and as I say, I would even agree to a technical change in the lake management plan to pull in that strategy. But even in what you said here, and I think is the case, and the reason I would support that is because of the tape grass. Okay, so I would support treating areas that don't have green X's that had serious tape grass by the end of last year. And the area, and there are a couple areas here that I'm very familiar with that fall into that criteria. So I think expanding the criteria to take into account the tape grass issue is meaningful, and we already see a lot of tape grass.
Wouldn't be an ongoing thing. I think this is really a sort of a temporary change in the plan to account for what happened last year, and then moving forward, that wouldn't necessarily be, we wouldn't have to do this again, because we'd be able to just look at the current year's data and not have to go back.
Okay. All right, so you're not advocating a change in the basic management plan, just to see how this strategy works. So again, I would support that, and the areas, everybody's looking at the map here, in the upper right area of the lake, that cove, which doesn't have a green X, I would, that applies for sure, this area up here. There is one green one there, but this whole end of that cove was full of tape grass, and it's going to be again, because if we only treat the shoreline, it's going to be a total mess. So I fully expect the report at the end of the next year we'll have a ton of tape grass in that area again. I think that criteria also deals with the cove sort of on the lower left.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That area, there's nothing there today, but I also know that it was
The worst area.
it was full of tape, so I see why that's pulled in and that's treated, even though it doesn't meet the criteria this year, pure criteria.
I was out there Sunday in that cove, and my trolling motor got stopped by the weeds, and I had to free it a couple times. That's how thick they are.
The floating weeds, yeah. You made a comment earlier that, before I forget, I want to follow up on, because tape grass in particular, I haven't seen the floating naiad yet, but the tape grass, is a ton of it floating, and my personal feeling is it's almost all of it is floating with its roots, that it's been uprooted, and
That southern basin's different, or that further south basin's much shallower than a lot of the other areas, which a lot of it is, it's not floating, it's actually the plants.
yeah, okay, where
It's
they're still rooted, but what's up and floating, I notice has been ripped up. The area that I don't agree this new criteria applies to is the area sort of dead center in the peninsula where there's 4 yellow X's that that don't meet it for 2 reasons, in my opinion. One is tape grass was not a major issue in that area last year. And secondly, there are no swimming beaches. That's the backside of all these people's property, and there's very limited swimming. I think my wife, when she goes skiing, is probably the only person I've seen in the water in that backside. So I'm not seeing why that backside would be treated.
Talking about, okay.
Exactly, right.
I don't disagree with you in that, actually, when I went through there last year, the whole upper right portion of that was completely choked off
With
with,
tape grass, or?
no, it wasn't tape grass. I think it was naiad, but this whole area right here was completely choked off. Where you
Yeah,
could
last
almost
year.
not pass it last year.
Last year, but this year, there's nothing. I've threw rakes out, and there's nothing there as of now. And I'm just concerned if we're starting to treat things because it was last year, and we're looking and we're getting data this year, there's no...
Just to look quick, that area that you just described
Yeah.
was a treatment area last year. They did treat.
Oh, good, great, I was going to go do that, yeah.
So
So
they did
that corner was
that
treated.
area
Yeah.
The other
Right.
thing to
And it's
note
still
about
good.
last year's treatment is that the dose we were targeting mainly curly leaf pond, the dose was a lot lower than what would normally even use for naiad, so may not, if there was tape grass and naiad in those areas, it may really not have been fully or even marginally controlled with the dose that we used there, so.
So we're treating later this year? Than last year?
27th, yeah.
And when did you treat last year? I was gonna say you applied.
I think it was the middle of June, or
Actually, you sent in the report on May 27th, so you treated quite a bit earlier.
and then probably was, a week or so after that, or.
Yeah, because we did the survey.
Yeah.
The survey was done on the
Late
May
survey.
23rd, so.
And the curly leaf was already well along, so we wanted to get right on it,
So the other, I did, if, the whole coast along the upper left there, the Reservoir Road coast, I didn't look at that, this one up here.
Yeah, so
I
I
don't-
mean, the northwesternmost cove, I
Yeah.
remember that from the survey was, to me, just as bad as that southwestern cove that we talked about there.
From last year, because I don't see it, I don't see
I
it
haven't
this
been
year.
up there in about a month, but it was starting, you could tell it was starting even a month ago. I don't know what it is. I don't know if you've been through there lately, Carl.
I've driven through there, I didn't take any samples today, but I mean, my understanding from reading the Fish and Wildlife and everything, that, a 40% number is good for fish, so to see weeds is not a bad thing, right? We shouldn't be killing all the weeds. And it's just the question was, is that, with no indication of issues in this survey, was that based on the tape grass as well, to treat that entire area? Or why are we treating that area, even though we see nothing this year?
There's unfortunately no data points between those 2 points.
But even those 2 points are last year points, not this year
Yeah,
points.
no, and yes, so that's primarily based on last year's tape grass growth.
Okay, so in our survey, I didn't go back and look, but in last year's end-of-year survey, that
Yes.
was a heavy tape grass?
Yes.
Okay, all right, okay. So, just before, so the other area that is very interesting is, it's area 30 and, I think 30 and 31. It's these 2 areas right here, Dominic. The one where the Shady Point boat
That's 30.
thing is, was it 36? These 2 here?
36,
And this one?
37.
37.
36, 37.
Okay, and this one's 36?
36 is the left one, 37 is the right. That's
Okay,
36.
Okay, so the interesting thing about 36 is, even in this year's report, the only observed plant, and my only observed plant today, was fanwort. So I don't understand at all why we're treating that area with a chemical that doesn't address the only weed that is in that area.
Yeah, and I mean, that might be where there's an occasional breakdown of how this is working. I mean, if the points last year were dominated by fan wart, like that point maybe
Right.
was. I mean, the biomass and density might have been high there, but it may not have had anything to do with Cape grass.
Yeah, it's not, yeah, so I think, I can easily believe last year, and maybe by the end of this year, although it's even in this year's report, it doesn't meet the criteria or would have showed up. The factor of 3, we got to be careful of, because if it's just fan wart, it really doesn't matter, because it doesn't help us with fan wart. So I seriously question why we would be treating an area that only has fan wart. And
And I agree with that one. I mean, we cut that part out.
the other one was it 37, Richard? The right one? That one has everything. I don't question treating that. However, the fan wart in that back area, and you've probably been in there fishing, because it's probably great fishing, the fan wart in that area is so abundant and plentiful, it's wiping out everything else. So, yeah, you could treat it and kill the few things that are left from the fan wart, but it's not going to do much in that area.
Well, in 36, 37, between those points and that little cove there, that was fan wart last year, it's this year, and it's,
Right.
yeah, bad.
So treating isn't really doing anything, it's just putting chemicals in for no real good reason. However, I do have something an idea I'd like to throw out just for consideration by you and the LSIC. Those areas are so fan wart intensive, and we don't really want fan wart to come back. Wouldn't those be good areas to consider going to a fan wart chemical and try to kill those and contain them in that area and try to keep them from going out all over the rest of the lake?
Yes, I mean, it's just that hasn't been a road that the LSIC has wanted to go down, so it hasn't even really been something that I've even brought up. And that's not the only bad area. I mean, there's probably 3 or 4 significant areas.
There's a couple other ones, I know where they are, but the density in that area, and the traffic in and out of there, because of, there's 20-odd boats that are, kept there. Kept traffic in and out of there, just dragging the stuff in and out and chopping it up and bringing it out.
I mean, I'm all for that.
And people in the LSIC will probably have a heart attack hearing me recommend going to the higher level chemical, but the goal is to try to keep them out of the rest of the lake.
I think the only reason it hasn't spread more is because it's a no-wake zone, so people aren't going quite as fast and chopping it up, Propellers aren't spinning as fast.
And it's pretty contained. Wind, I don't know about the wind, but I just throw it out for so two comments. One is I don't think we should be treating that with the chemicals we're using. And for future, it might be considered as an area to try to do a little containment.
I agree on 36, and I'll strike that. I mean, 37, the data supports it, but I won't bring that up to the LSIC.
Yeah, and I mean, that little cove, it's such a little amount, you won't even notice when the other plants are gone, because you can't see anything but fan wart, but I don't have a strong feeling about the little back area, but that one with none. So the two areas that I think,
This is mostly fan wart last year. There's some Cape grass, but...
Wouldn't now
So
be the
is
time
this the area
to
that
treat
you
fan
agree
wart?
with, or- Yeah, what's the area that,
maybe, it's so contained, it's not going to be a big expense, and it's not going to affect a lot of people. I don't know, just
Could we approve in this meeting the treating of that area for fan wart?
I don't-
We got to see other.
no, I think you need to see it, yeah. I just plan it for next year, maybe, because it'll be the same next year, I'm sure.
Yep, fan wart's pretty resilient.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe it's staying, I don't know why anyway. So Dominic, the two, and for the commission's sake, that one that I think there's agreement of, but we'll see. But the other one is behind that peninsula. I don't see what's driving any chemical treatment, so I would not support treating behind that.
Points 1 through 4.
1 through 4, thank you.
I don't have last year's data with me. I I did the survey last October, I do remember there being ballast area, but we're certainly willing to recheck that area, certainly if there's no tape grass or naiad, on the day of the treatment,
Yeah.
if we can make a field decision
Yeah.
on that one.
Yeah, if you could, because I did go back to last year's report, because I was looking for areas like that, but from last year had tape grass issues, and that area did not have a tape grass issue. There was some observed, but it was not the dominant. And again, I'm in the water, my wife's in the water, and on that side a lot, several times a week, there was no significant tape grass. And I think the last year treatment from, what I've seen today, and confirmed by Todd, last year's treatment looks like it pretty much took care of that corner, so that was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
No?
Might have
I don't know if
might have been
it's-
something else going on there, but you're right, it doesn't, I mean, we didn't have so there's a couple other points in that corner, 6 and 7, that didn't show up last year as high density either, even in the fall, so, not sure what happened there. You said you did see tape
I was
grass?
gonna say, one through
Last year I
four
did.
definitely showed up as biomass 3 and above in the end-of-year survey.
But not for tape grass. But well, you can't tell what's tape grass and what ain't, but it wasn't dominant.
Okay, well, they have it listed as dominant, the bushy pondweed, which is the
No,
native.
the tape grass is the
Oh,
wild
tape
celery.
grass. Okay. They had it dominant in 5
Way
and
down the
7,
corner.
which is in there a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know where 7.
5 and 7.
Anyway, if you could review
I mean, we can,
the need for that, and maybe you stay in the corner, I don't know, but,
yeah, we can list that as we'll check in on day of treatment.
okay. And just out of curiosity, it was good, because I've seen this town line drawn a lot, but it's usually, I've only seen it down in the dam area, and I never really kind of realized it came way down to that where the railroad track is. How far from the line is that little cove? Because that place is a serious problem, as you've seen here with the green X's.
It's like about 600 feet. There is a,
Yeah, it's definitely less than, obviously,
So it's under
the
the,
furthest one away, I think you're right, it was like 600 to 700 feet away.
yeah, that's too bad. Okay.
Sorry.
and just to the comment, that was actually the most species-rich area. Points 1 and 2 on the backside.
Yep, great,
Two here.
good. Let's let it flourish.
All right. Any other questions from the commission before I open up the public? Any questions from the public?
Okay,
Yes.
couple comments.
Just use the mic.
Sorry. Ashley Brown again, Avery Cole, 607 Reservoir. So a couple things. I do, your last comment about Shirley Conservation, we have gone to them and asked them if we can make an amendment so that we can survey and treat over there, so that's pending. So we're working with them. So that's something we're actively pursuing
Great.
as a board. Also, I do appreciate the observations. I would like the board to consider approving the map as is, with the exception of 36, which Dominic agreed does not need to be treated, and areas 1 through 4, he'll do a field review before putting any chemical in the water. We do, as a board, pay for Dominic's expertise, and we have a lot of faith in his education, his surveying, and all the work he's put into it. I go out, I see a bunch of weeds, I know the Conservation Board, I know Carl, you're very familiar with the weeds in the lake, but you don't have that educational background that Dominic does, so I would like the board to take that into consideration when reviewing our presentation and whether or not you're gonna approve this treatment. Forget what else I was gonna say, but that's it. We're doing the best. I know we talked a lot about, other areas in the lake. Maybe that's something to bring up in the fall, when we discuss our treatment for 2018. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just a comment. I'm not questioning Dominique's expertise or putting mine anywhere near his. I'm just going on the data, and Dominique's data, it says that there's no weeds in that area. So I'm just reflecting what Dominique has reported, that last year there was, confirm that, and that this year there isn't. So I'm questioning the need to
Well, that he
to
said
treat-
there isn't, I think he said he didn't survey.
No, this plan says that there is nothing that meets the criteria on that peninsula. there's no green pluses, so there's nothing that meets the criteria in the lake management plan on that peninsula.
But there, I mean, we'd ask to be able to check in the field. We are showing, dominant naiad at 1 through 4, present at 5, and also showing tape grass at 3, so, obviously the tape grass, it doesn't seem to be as bad as it was last year. That's why I'd ask that we be able to just make a field call on that one, and based on the conditions.
And you're doing the applications yourself?
I will be doing this one.
I myself have no problem with Dominic doing a last-minute review of the areas. Like, he did verbally agree with you, Carl, on 36 and 37, and we'll make a field review on 1 through 4. I mean, there certainly are plants in there, and I feel confident that, given Dominic's familiarity with the lake and our familiarity with him, if he says he's going to review it
Yeah.
and do what's in the best interest. I mean, overall, it seems like we agree pretty closely with the area that you have, that you're looking to treat.
Just for the record, I said I would, the data supports treatment on 37. I understand what your perspective there, and I would bring that up to LSIC and consider that not to be treated.
Yeah, I agree with that. So what would your criteria be on that peninsula then? Because, I mean, you know, we use the word dominant like a scary thing. Dominant just means it's the most you could see. It doesn't mean it's good or bad or indifferent, right? So dominant doesn't mean treat, and presence doesn't mean treat. So what criteria would you use when you go back to the field?
Basically visual. I mean, if we see the tops of any tape grass driving through there, or if there's a visible naiad blooms underneath there.
Okay.
But if I go in there and it's obviously less than other areas of the lake that we are treating, I mean, and I do partially agree with you. That was one of, if there was any areas here, I mean, that was one that was sort of, one I didn't remember as strongly last year as being bad.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Tony.
All right, any other comments from the public? All right, any other comments or questions from commissioners? Seeing none, I guess we can move forward. I'd accept the motion to accept the treatment proposal with the review of 36, 37, and 1 through 4. And make an on-site call. The professional can make an on-site call when he does. Just make sure that we're following all of the data requests from the Board of Commissioners, so that we have that in the post-treatment.
Have it all logged in from the first treatment. So
Perfect, okay.
Just on comment, though, I thought, and I don't feel strongly about it, but I thought there was agreement on 36.
yes, we did agree.
Okay,
36
all
was
right.
not.
Because you said review.
36, 37, and 1 through 4.
But 36 is off the
36 was
table.
no treatment.
There's no treatment.
37 and 1 through 4 would be
Is a
field
review.
observations,
Right.
But
field calls.
it's different than what we have in front of us, that's why I made the comment
Yep.
on those. Yep.
All right, thank you.
All right, one motion, a second?
So moved.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Who made the motion?
Todd, Carl seconded. We got it there, right?
I seconded, that's all I know.
Carl moved, or, Todd moved, Carl seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Dominic, have a good night.
And thank you for the volunteering on the website thing, for the notification.
All right, moving back, one of the people showing up, were they here for 58 Hemlock Drive?
Yeah.
Okay. We will reopen 58 Hemlock Drive pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a continued request for determination where it entails replacement of stone steps and adding gravel under a deck for stabilization at 58 Hemlock Drive. All right. Want to come forward, sir? Just grab a seat and sit right in front of Mike. And Matt, you just refresh us on
Yeah, thank you.
what we were waiting on for the continuation?
Pending last meeting, actually, Mark Bernard, 58 Hemlock. Pending last meeting, the commission was gonna do a site visit at my residence and wanted me to come back after they did a site visit, which they did this past Saturday.
Okay. And I believe Todd was on the walk.
I was.
Did it answer your questions or concerns?
It did.
It did, okay.
And I believe were we waiting on an updated plan with some measurements?
I believe we were. Did we get, do you have a final map?
Mr. Chair, what was the date of the original submittal, just so I can look up the document?
Was it the 5th?
The 5th? Oh, was it the 5th?
The application was very brief and did not have many of the buffer zones marked in on them.
Well, this is what I had.
Okay. I believe when they were here, we had asked to have you draw out some of the dimensions and buffer from the wetlands. It doesn't look like we have any of that, so we'll have to wait on getting that
That's-
information.
From the water line.
Let's say, Todd, you have pictures, right?
Good picture, Matt.
Okay. Unfortunately, without any of that information, we can't really, I mean, I wouldn't be comfortable approving it this evening.
What do you need from me? Because I'm really confused now.
So we need to have the edge of the wetland drawn in. We need to have, we have a 30-foot no disturbance zone and a 50-foot no structure zone drawn in on the plan so that if we go and review it.
Is this something a typical homeowner writes up, draws up,
Or you can have an engineer or a homeowner can certainly do it.
to replace existing steps?
Yep. Yep, just something that we have to have in the file, so if we go back and see what you have done in future, we have a point of reference. Unfortunately, we have no point of reference here as far as dimensions.
I was
Distance
direct,
from the
Matt
lake.
just told me to write a sketch of what I wanted to do.
Okay.
When he came out
Yep.
in June.
Okay. You want to review with him, Matt, on what the requirements for the plans, the information that we need?
How about the trees? Did you get a chance to look at the 2 trees?
We did.
And
They need to come down.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
They do need to come down.
Absolutely.
3 of us are all in agreement with that.
Okay, which is fine, I mean, the trees can come down, but we have to have the proper, we have to have something in there with some data points on it.
Well, and I can't say replacement of the steps. I have no issue with, personally, did you say you were gonna, if I recall, we're gonna replace those with a permeable stone or something like that, or are you gonna do
the
granite?
landings are probably, yeah, the steps are gonna be out of just reclaimed granite, solid
Okay.
granite. Keep them
Okay.
7-inch rises, for the elderly and the kids,
Okay.
nothing significant. I just kinda wanna get it done during the summer months, it was getting used, and,
Sure. I would just be careful, because a number of those steps are certainly within 30 feet of the edge of the lake, that you don't expand the steps. Try and keep them within the same footprint.
oh, the same alleyway, you mean?
No, what I'm saying is try and keep the exposed portion of the step the same dimensions that's there now. So where you have a 3 by 4 step, don't make it a 10 by 8 step.
Oh, no. I was thinking 4 footers is kind of the standard.
Yeah.
4 industry. I'm sure you guys are familiar with
Those actually would probably be a little smaller ways to help.
It might be.
it. Yeah, I'd like to do a little bigger tread though, well, not a bigger tread, but, the ones that are there are 4 feet, so it's nice, it's a nice gentle slope.
Mm-hmm.
If commissioners are amenable to it, we can, where there aren't any specific questions on construction, offer, and they can,
Just to look at the gravel on your deck. The deck is all shaded, there's nothing there, everything's rolling away.
Mr. Chairman?
Landscape decorative, it's nothing.
yes, Mr. Luck.
I just looked up the date and things, and unfortunately, I was not at that meeting, and I didn't review the tape, so
Okay.
I couldn't participate, so we have a quorum anyway.
All right, so at this point, we can't approve it, we'll just continue it.
Mr. Chairman, if I could offer some assistance and such, if it's a function of delineating the edge of the wetland to the steps and creating an appropriate arc, Matt, if you can't do it, your mom was my neighbor, so, across the lake. So I would certainly, as a member, go over, but would I have to recuse myself because I was assisting him developing the drawing?
Not if you're just issuing facts. I don't see,
It would just be
myself, I don't
fact,
see
yeah.
any.
If you
You're not
wanna do it
offering
with me, we can
opinions
go
or
over it.
deliberating.
We'll help you. We'll definitely help you.
I'd recommend though that the trees come down as soon as possible.
Unfortunately, we can't move on anything at this point because we don't have a quorum that will vote on no approval of it.
It's Mullins Road.
Okay, but if you can work with him and
And I
assist
mean, the
Jack.
trees, like I said at the last meeting,
Yep.
it's not like I want to take them down. I just want to get that step passed, so
Okay.
in the future we can do it.
Unfortunately, at this point, we can't issue a determination. We just don't have enough to vote.
Problem is, we have to have a quorum of 4 members, and apparently, I was away at the last, because I was on vacation, apparently Mr. Luck wasn't at the last meeting. So, we can't vote on it. We have to wait for the other members that were here to come in.
You have to be here for all the meetings, or you have to come back and read all the minutes or watch the tape.
I have patience. Okay, so come back, Matt, will help me with the measurements, or?
Jack and I will
Jack?
both, we'll tag team and do it.
Okay,
Okay.
and then come back the next week, no, because I was standing for a half hour on the other side, where we were last time.
He emailed me, he thought it was still in the Ritter building.
Okay, he'll be back here in a second.
It'll be back there. We do the first Wednesday there and the second one here.
Okay,
All right, so at this point, I'll accept the motion to continue to August 2nd.
So moved.
Motion with a second?
Second.
Yeah, we'll get a hold of Matt. He's the one that, if he's gonna come out, he sets the time. Usually I'm open because I'm quasi-retired.
okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, sorry about that.
See you August.
August 2nd.
Vote.
All right, any other discussion?
What I'll do is just before the meeting, couple days before, I'll send you a reminder as to where it is.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye. Mr. Chairman, for Matt, could you please put the tape on into that meeting folder so I could
Yeah,
listen to it?
5th, okay.
4 CDs worth of download.
Moving
Really?
forward, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended, the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for determination will be held. Work entails grading for a septic system within the riverfront and at 22 Boucher Road by Joe Esposito. Do we have anybody here for 22 Boucher Road? At this point, I'll accept the motion to continue to August 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, in the Town of Lunenburg, Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaw, a continued public hearing on a hearing to amend a notice of intent by Jeffrey Viviano for work at 338 Sunset Lane will be held. Work entails the placement of a boulder on the north side and a tree house, and the addition of a dock within 100 feet buffer zone of a wetland resource area. And I'm
Yep.
sure you guys didn't review the last meeting, so...
Well, I got to recuse myself.
Charles,
Anyone?
Okay, so we can't...
do anything on that either.
All right, so for the opportunity, for just a matter of continuing the motion, will you participate?
Oh.
For continuing?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll accept the motion to continue.
So moved.
Jack?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's continue that till August 2nd. Enforcement. We have not seen Mr. Thomas at 183, we have not done our sidewalk, 48 Oak Ridge Road.
Two parts to this. First part is for Mr. Terrell. We were before you back in May.
The meeting folder.
I have the original with me.
What was it for the original hearing?
Well, this is his proposal.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if the speaker could introduce himself, would be great.
What's that?
If the speaker could introduce himself.
Just make sure you're speaking in the mic there, Jack.
We were here before, we commission for an RDA for a septic system upgrade. The system being in this highlighted area here. It's shown, this was the original plan that was brought to the commission a few months back. When they went to excavate for this, right after all the permits were acquired, due to the weather that we've had and whatnot, the water table is actually a half a foot higher. Neshoba would not let them de-water the site. Trying to save time and get the system in, decided to retest on this other parcel that's also connected with this piece, put a new system up in here. So the septic tank that's shown on the original plan was replaced in the same spot. A pump chamber will be added right next to it, and then we'll be pumping up to this new leaching area up here on the hill. So we're pulling everything out of the 50 to 100 foot area and putting it outside. That's part one. Part two, the new owner of this house would like to put a deck on the second floor on this side, and then square this part of the house off with the deck. I believe Matt's been out there already, taking a site walk.
This is the one where we issued the fine for the patio going prior to approval.
Okay, so the proposed block patio to be removed is because it was put in illegally. It was not part of the original order.
There was another one that was there.
Oh, there was one there
There
already.
was one there
Yes.
already.
And do we
And
have,
what they were going to do was remove it and replace it with the exact dimensions with paver block, which is what they did ahead of the file.
okay.
It's actually semi-permeable.
Semi-permeable by design, or,
I think it's more like build.
so they weren't, they're not semi-permeable blocks, they're just spaced further
Space
apart.
for
Polymorphic sand between it?
that, I don't know.
That's a picture of what was there when I did the testing for the second area. So I haven't been there since, I don't know what it looks like. Just in conversation.
But there was a,
There was a patio with some sort of a block end wall there. And in regards to the proposed deck here, it basically wants to square this area off. And put a sliding door or a doorway here to come off. And then this would be the location of the side house. So I'm standing down here taking a picture back this way. He wants to put a door off the bedroom with a raised deck over here.
So I just get, so, okay, this is a raised deck?
Yep, yes, this would be the raised deck area. Deck would be over. Be off of here. Basically, they're
So
gonna
off-
attach it up off of
It's
here.
off the second floor,
Correct.
or whatever, that higher level,
Yep.
deck off to there.
Okay, proposed deck is ground level, and this is second floor?
Correct.
First floor?
Yep.
So,
I see these pictures.
so this proposed deck is coming off at this level?
Correct.
Coming out, and it'll
Yep.
just be,
Couple sonotubes.
Okay.
Yep, pull those rocks out of there. I think there's a stump or two that was, a bush of some sort, or arborvitae or whatnot that was cut down years ago. So this area here, this would be the raised deck off the second floor, off this side. Basically, square this off.
that's the part that's within the 50 foot, right?
Yes.
Yes, it's all within the 50 foot.
Yeah.
But they're outside the 30 foot.
Right, this is the raised here, and that's
That's this area right there. Correct.
so these decks are uncovered?
Correct. Okay. And this is the area of the patio that was there.
what does it look like now?
That I don't know.
Now, I should note this, I had notified the commission earlier, I issued a $100 fine for the jumping of the gun on the deck. Not the deck, the patio. The building commissioner will not consider a building permit on any of the two decks until we're satisfied. So we've already went over this issue with the building commissioner.
Satisfied with regard to the fine being paid?
No, it's not the fine, it's our approval.
Okay.
Until we approve it, he won't issue a building permit.
On the patio, I guess we're calling this, thank you for bringing those pictures in. It's great to have, actually see what was there before, so we see that there was a patio. I don't have the picture. I thought I had a picture of the current state, but I think the current state, there's now a wall where that patio pretty much followed the contour. I think there's a short wall, but
I haven't been there. The only conversation about the wall I've had was with Matt telling me that the new owner went and ripped out the old one and redid it.
right.
He did a nice job from what I'm told, but I haven't been there, I haven't seen it.
If you look from the lake, there's a step now. It's not a patio on the contour anymore. Which makes sense. I'm not saying I'm for or against it, it's just that for the commission's information, and we may need to take a look. But I think it has been leveled, whereas the patio was sloped with the land before. I think it now probably comes off pretty level.
They had this.
To the house.
He may have replaced that.
Yeah, there was a small thing
That's the
here, but...
Step down there.
Yeah, I think now it's... I think the patio's higher, so we might want to look at
Chairman,
that.
I'm having a problem with
great.
regard
Thank you.
to our policy of structure within 50 feet. The proposed deck that's pushed further back is elevated. Clearly, it's going to allow for, it's not going to be roofed, so you're not really going to be changing the soil or even the elevation or the way things flow, but that proposed deck in the corner at the ground level, that's a structure. That's an additional structure. We've turned people back before because they were within the 50 feet. And this is clearly almost, this is within a few, maybe 5 feet of the 30-foot. It doesn't exist right now, and I think that we'd be ending up eroding our own policies and our own bylaws and regulations by allowing something like that to occur. And even then, the other raised piece,
Well, I mean, the raised one's a bit, the ground level one, I agree with you, Jack. The raised one, we might want to take a look at it to see what we think, but I think we should definitely look at the site to compare and contrast what was there versus what is there now.
yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Work on the decks?
No.
No,
Okay, so no work has been done on the deck, so the conditions of the two decks are the conditions that Jack presented in the photo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The owner's been warned emphatically by both of us not to do anything with any of the decks, plus if he does, he's going to be doing it without a building permit. The building commissioner won't issue anything until we resolve these issues.
And the septic system, I have no problem.
The septic system, I don't have an issue with. I actually think it's a better...
It's improvement, yeah, that's an improvement, yeah. The decks, the big concern you always have for decks is we never know the future. It's a deck today, tomorrow it's got a cover on it, it's got a roof on it, then it's an addition,
House, and then it's enclosed, the next thing,
and then there's a
we've got water moving differently.
storage under it. And, so I think, taking a look at the site might be appropriate, but I'm not sure it changes the two deck discussions.
Well, I'm not saying it would change the two decks, but I
But we
think
should probably
need
go
to
out, take another look at it.
The patio anyway.
What is their schedule of work as far as the septic system, or are they trying to do everything at once?
They would like to get the septic system in as soon as possible because the new owner's already living there and Billy Terrell's responsible for getting the system in.
Okay.
So they've already had contractors there, Ryan Aldrich.
I would suggest doing this as two portions,
I
the
was just
septic
gonna
system.
suggest that, if we can get Billy's part done,
Yep.
and then we can deal with the rest of it.
Yeah, myself, you've moved the leach field basically out of the 100-foot buffer,
Yeah, it's a better
which
plan.
is a better situation than having it in there.
Yeah.
So myself, I have no problems agreeing with you that it is a field change.
Now, just to let the commission know, one of the reasons why we didn't go into that area at first was Billy Terrell didn't want to touch that portion of that, just in case the new owners wanted to do something there. Build a bigger house, who knows, they wanted just...
Which area?
The area where the system is now.
Okay.
proposed. So that's the reason why we didn't go there in the first place, but in the long run, it's there.
How much excavation has been done where the system was proposed originally?
They had it all excavated out down to natural material, which was about 4.5 feet down.
So we're gonna
That's
put,
all been replaced. So that the erosion control should still be up.
okay. And did we take any vegetation out of there in our excavating that we can't put back? Trees, things like
I
that?
don't think any trees really came down. We kind of wedged
Okay.
it in between
I didn't see any
the major
indication of
trees that were in there. There
something
might have been some smaller, saplings that had been taken down that were in the middle, but for the most part, the mature trees, the oaks.
Okay.
And I think it was the
You did
maple
have some
pine.
good photos of this side of the house. Did you have any photos of that side of the house?
I do not.
Okay. And none were presented in the application?
No.
Okay. All right, I'll
I
just,
took photos for myself, just to see where those decks were and whatnot.
all right, and let's just make sure that we get, we can review the overheads, the satellite and Google photos, so let's just make sure we get to that excavation back to the way it was.
Yep.
And vegetated as soon as possible.
Mr. Chairman? I'm not sure if it matters, maybe just a curiosity, but this used to be 2 lots. Is it still 2 lots? It's one combined? Great.
Well, Mr.
it's
Chairman,
listed as
in
the same.
regards to where the tanks are, the pump chamber and the force mains still have to go in there, so there's a little bit more excavation in there that has to be done.
Yeah, but that's up here. If you excavate it out for the
Yep.
beach field down here, that's
That-
quite a bit of
yeah.
excavation in the buffer zone.
Correct.
That needs to be
Yep.
remediated back to the way it was.
Exactly.
All right, and one other note, in looking at the proposed work on the lake side of the house, we don't have any erosion protection, it doesn't look like, because that is quite a big sandy area there that looks like it's got a fresh load of sand on it. So you may want to make sure that, inform your clients, they might want to get some erosion protection up there, especially if they've already started to work. I don't know if you noticed any when you're out there, Matt?
Well, there was a pile of sand.
Well, okay, that's not erosion protection though.
There was a pile of sand. I was talking about the beach feeding. It looked like there was a pile of sand for beach feeding when I was out there.
Okay, well then let's, we can review that at the time, but let's get some erosion protection in place for work that's already been started. You haven't seen it yet, so.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
It's not a pile anymore.
Any idea when the commission will be out for a sidewalk, just so I can let him know?
It would be the Saturday, what would that be, the 29th?
29th.
A particular time, or just?
Generally, we leave here about 8 o'clock. So anywhere between 8 and 10. Matt can touch base with you a little bit closer just to see what else we have for sidewalks. All right, so at this point, we'll accept any other discussion on breaking up the amendment? Okay. So it looks like we'll be able to do that. Any questions or comments from the public on 48 Oak Ridge Drive? All right, seeing none, I'll accept a motion to accept the movement of the leach field to its new location shown on the plan, dated 6/14, as an accepted field change.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion on that?
Mr. Chairman, just
Yes.
we would then follow up with a continuation on the other pieces. Is that-
Correct.
That's part of it, okay, thank you.
Yeah, At this point, we're just accepting it as two
Yeah.
pieces to the amendment, so we'll accept the first amendment, and we will continue the second.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving forward, I will accept a motion to continue the second amendment for the proposed decks and patio at 48 Oak Ridge Drive.
So moved?
Motion is second.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll continue that till August 2nd with a site walk on July 29th. Thank you, Jack.
See you guys.
All right, moving forward with enforcement, 70 Oak Ridge Drive.
That actually was a much better septic.
Good evening, Jamie.
Hello, guys, how are you?
Ah, good.
Well, this is what a conservation commission meeting looks like. Haven't been here in a while.
I know, boy.
Oh, here he comes.
All right, so we have observed violations of the existing order of conditions at 70 Oak Ridge Drive. Matt, can you bring us up to speed on your site walk of 70 Oak Ridge Drive?
I went out on Oak Ridge, basically after I received a report from Carl, noting what it could be potential violations. And when I went out there, what was discovered that the existing retaining wall that was out there was inadvertently destroyed when they went to do the well installation. They had block material that they were gonna rebuild the wall. I went out, I talked to the property owner who, was talking about remediating that particular wall, which, that happens during the course of construction. If something gets damaged, you repair it. So I went out on site with Jamie to take a look at the area, and you could see that the wall was destroyed. So what we had agreed on was that the wall could be, repaired, brought back to its original condition, even with the newer blocks, something that was gonna be a little bit more sturdy, but it had to be within existing parameters of the wall. It could not be heightened or expanded. And I gave a list of review for Jamie to present to his client. And as of this week, I was sent pictures showing that, in my absence, when I went on vacation, the wall actually was expanded. So I spoke to Mr. Rowe about it. I do have an enforcement order here that I wrote up along with a ticket for the violation from the contractor.
Matt, was that a vertical or a horizontal expansion of the wall, or both?
Both.
Horizontal, I don't know about.
Vertical. Oh, vertical for sure.
Do you have a picture of the plan that had the temporary roadway put in it? Do you have that file here tonight? Okay.
It's not in here, it's on the,
All right.
it's not in here, it's on the plan. Which one? There you go. Here's the original proposal.
Okay, so where is the wall?
Wall was down here.
Okay. So the wall was found?
It was here, this is the wall.
This wall?
Because there
Was
was...
it that wall or was it the wall up by the 50-foot zone? I can't recall.
No, there was no wall up there.
It's the cinder block wall that was at the base.
Wall on the property.
All right.
Yeah, one on the lake, and then the one that was creating this
Yeah, I got some pictures.
garden area.
So this is the wall that was damaged, right here. This wall here, visual to this point, subsurface from this point to the stairs. Same type of block expression.
Is there any pictures that demonstrated subsurface?
I don't have those.
What type of block, Jamie?
It's hollow core cinder block, that's all it
Yeah.
is. So,
And it was 3 blocks high.
8 inches, maybe 24 inches high.
Carl, is that existing or is that new?
This was before the drilling was started, so this was the initial condition. Well, the top of the hill had already been removed, but this is the existing condition. I'm hard pressed to believe that there was a buried wall, looking at the picture, the initial picture.
I'm not trying to make a representation that's untrue, so it was buried. And the nice thing about doing a topographic survey prior to any design work or any permitting is we have top-of-wall shots, so I can reproduce, I know what they are, I can look at exactly what the elevation is, and I can shoot the elevation today, and I can tell you exactly how higher it is. So I absolutely willing to do that, that's not an issue. I'm not debating it's higher, I do think it's higher. How much, I can't tell you. If I had to guess, probably 1 block high. If you go out there and take a look when you go by,
I got pictures right here I can show you, Jamie. It was 3 cinder blocks high, and it's now 4...
Rather than arguing the point, why
It's not
don't
arguing, I'm
we-
just
No.
sharing data.
let's reproduce the plan.
Sure.
So we know it's on site.
And absolutely. So, the other thing I think you need to consider too is the base of that wall still needs to be buried, right? So Phil's gonna go in there back to the original grade. So one block is probably gonna be buried. So if you count the blocks up.
What they're claiming is that there's a wall buried under
But
here.
I've already shot the top of the
All
wall.
the way to the
I know
stairs.
what that elevation is. I can tell you exactly what that is in the AutoCAD drawing. I'll shoot the existing wall out there today and tell you exactly what the elevations are, not a problem.
Could you speak a little bit to the impact of raising the wall in that area, what it'll do to the drainage and, is it gonna cause a problem or it actually reduce the speed of the runoff down to the lake?
So, a couple of things, and I will. So, a couple of things. Matt emailed me those conditions, which I thought were fine, no issues whatsoever. I'm not debating that at all. I forwarded that email directly to Elite Construction immediately, said, let Eric Sapoma know, not, he did. He forwarded, so I forwarded it the same day. Matt forwarded to Eric Sapoma on July 30th, so I have the email train, so that's good. So everybody was on board with that.
So,
What Eric did on
3
his
rows.
own in the field.
You can see the
was he
return
was going by
on
field
this end of the wall.
conditions, and, he thought it
The new
would
wall
be better
goes all the way
to
over
do
here.
it the way he did based upon what he found on site. Now, that said, made the wrong decision. He should have called Matt Morrow or called myself, no question about it, right? So I'm not going to argue about that at all. I know exactly how longer it is because I scaled basically from the existing plan, and I know through Carl's pictures that it goes all the way to the steps. So it definitely expands, no question about it. So on the face of it, if we're going to go with the conditions that Matt and the commission sent to us, I know 7 or 8 feet have to come out, there's no question about it. And then I do believe it's higher. I only believe it's higher by a block based upon my inspection, but
here's the new one.
that's just an inspection. I'm gonna
Here's
go
the
by
new
the
wall.
elevations. I'm not going by my eye or any pictures. So if that's the case, I know one block has to come out.
It goes all the way to the step,
So he did it.
and it's 4
Have a level course
18-inch blocks
behind it
high.
as opposed to a sloping course. And he extended it to the stairs because he thought it was gonna reduce erosion. That's why he did it. I'm not gonna argue a point one way or the other. There's many ways of doing different things. They're all correct and wrong at the same time, depending upon your point of view. Eric Sapoma's point of view was he was reducing erosion and making a level backfill as opposed to slope. We know that a level backfill is going to help the wall structurally. A slope backfill is going to put more force on it and over time push. He wanted a level backfill, he went one more block. That's what he did. Right or wrong, good or bad, that's exactly what happened. In Carl's pictures also, there's trees, right? Let's talk about that because that's.
Let's talk about the trees.
So there's the person that was hired, if you're, first of all, from a perspective point of view, if you're on the lake, looking at the site, right? Because that's the perspective of the pictures. The trees on the left are dead. So from Curtis Nikitas, M&M Tree Service, actually drilled the trees and determined they were hollow. And that said, they can, I have pictures of the stumps, hollow, I can show them to you, I can email them to you, but that's what happens. But the owner has no issues with planting the trees. He just didn't want dead trees. So I have no problem putting on a plan 2 or 3 trees in that area to be replanted, not an issue at all. The trees, from a perspective on the right-hand side, the roots were disturbed during construction, and they were shallow roots. So I don't think those were dead. I don't believe that for a fact, for an instant. Curtis didn't drill them, and they weren't determined to be dead. The roots were disturbed. They came back. But we have no issues replanting them. No issues at all. The owner didn't want these down to begin with, to be honest with you. Steve White and his wife, great couple, great people. There's just 2 of them. And Matt Fournier, Elite Construction, who's doing the general contracting, son-in-law. So they're trying to do the right thing. I don't know if you've met Matt Fournier from Elite Construction, honest as the day is long. Great guy, tries to do the right thing. and I went over everything with, he passed everything along to Eric Sepulveda. It didn't get done the way he wanted. He's willing to step up and do the right thing. There's no argument here. So, that said, what I recommend to the commission, for what it's worth, is between now and the next meeting, I go out, shoot the elevations, top a wall, shoot the location, compare it, come back with a sketch, and let's get this done at the next meeting. On that sketch I submit, we'll show 5 trees going back in, not a problem.
You use geofabric to replace,
Those are pre-engineered blocks.
Yeah.
You don't have to in that particular case. They didn't shoot concrete behind it, they didn't have to put crushed stone either. No, no. That's why we like those blocks, to be honest with you. They can go higher. If they go higher, they go deeper. They're also hollow core in the back where you can fill with crushed stone.
How high is the wall, Jamie?
I don't have a count, but the block, the new block is 16 inches high.
So,
16.
how many tall?
4.
4 times 16. Do you need a building permit for a wall over a certain height?
Good question. I don't know.
Okay, so it may not even be a legal wall to begin with.
Well, keep in mind, 1 block or 2 blocks of that is going to be subsurface. So how high are they, Carl?
No, there's 4 blocks above the surface.
Well, but these aren't questions for us, these are
I know
questions
that.
for the
I see
building
4.
inspector. Okay,
Usually there's 4 blocks
Yeah.
high, so 1 or 2 are going to be subsurface.
Okay.
On refresh.
all right. So at this point, I would recommend, Matt does have an enforcement order. He has issued a stop work in that area.
Yep.
We issue the enforcement order. We treat this as an amendment to the notice of intent or the order of conditions, at which point it has to be filed properly and advertised. So I don't think it's something we can do at the next meeting, but we can certainly, because, I mean, this is quite a bit of work, and it's all within the 50-foot no structure zone, so I don't think we can just handle it as a field change. Myself, I don't know.
No, but you can handle it as an enforcement action because we have the enforcement order. So, I mean, if you want him to file for, as an amendment, that's fine. If he can, I don't know
Well,
if he can mobilize and get the shots done so we can
It
look
goes
at it.
back to the original application when it was filed.
Right,
The
no.
original application when it was filed was, they were gonna do something in front of the house, but they were gonna file for that later.
Right.
So, I mean, this is a substantial amount of work at this point.
So we weren't
So-
proposing any work behind the house at all.
Correct.
And we
You were gonna do
didn't
that
want-
later,
We didn't
so-
want to
Yep.
be honest with you.
Yep.
The only reason the wall went in is because they destroyed the wall that was there. It's a cinder block wall, hollow core.
Yep.
It came over, replaced it, we got the conditions. There's a difference of opinion with respect to the wall that was built versus the conditions
Yep.
that were imposed. I'd rather not file all over again if I don't have to. I'd rather
Well,
get
you would
this
just be
done.
filing an amendment, you wouldn't be filing a brand-new notice of intent, you'd just
Yeah.
be filing an amendment to the order of conditions.
Yeah.
But you do have to go through the advertising process, so that, I mean,
If I do, I do, but.
yeah, I mean, unfortunately, if neighbors were interested in what was gonna happen, especially in the 50-foot no structure,
Yep.
I myself would have a really hard time just doing it as a board action. It should be a public hearing, the way that it's handled, given the amount of work that's there. So, I don't think we can really do it in just one meeting, unfortunately.
Mr. Chairman? I certainly agree with all that. I'd like to make 2 comments to hopefully try to move the process along quicker. So when it comes in, the amendment or it comes in, one is that you mentioned that there's 4 blocks there now, but one of them will be subsurface or something. But that would mean you'd have to increase the grade because they're now at the level of the lake, of the original wall. So if you bury those, that's going to add material.
So I haven't been out there recently, Carl, so I called the contractor before I came over, got an explanation of exactly what happened and why. Called Matt Forney, same deal. I'm told that the grade out there behind the wall is lower than the existing grade it was prior to construction.
But behind the wall maybe, but not in front. I'm saying in front. There would be no fill in front of the wall then,
Lakeside,
the lakeside.
that's what I'm talking about. So the block on Lakeside is going to be, the grade on Lakeside is coming up that 16 inches at a very minimum.
But but that would be adding material that was never there before. It's now sitting at the level of the original.
You had a existing condition survey?
Yep.
So let them do the survey, Carl, rather than go around in circles.
So do we have the initial condition?
We do.
And does it include the wall height?
Yes, yeah, I actually have the existing wall, top of wall, bottom of wall.
Not existing, the pre-existing.
The one that was destroyed.
Right.
Exactly right, yeah, I have
Yeah,
all.
okay.
So
Good.
when I come back at the next meeting.
Good.
Well, maybe not the next meeting because we have to advertise, right? So whatever next meeting is going to be, and unfortunately, that's going to put it into September because I'm on vacation. The second meeting in August, which is unfortunate. I don't want to stop the construction of the house. That's what I don't want to do. If we want to talk, I don't know if that's possible or not, with your enforcement order. We finally resolved the building permit with the Board of Health. That was an issue. The room count was an issue. We met with Jim Gariffi and resolved it. So everything is signed now, right? So the house as designed and as permitted, if you allow the construction of that to commence and stop everything else until we resolve this wall issue, be happy to do that. That's okay. I don't want to stop the house construction at this point.
My other,
Sorry, Carl. When did we knock down the original wall?
When the well went in,
And when was that?
not too long ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, June, May?
It was in June.
Okay.
okay, but again, if you look at the pictures, I think Matt sent you, clearly the wall was knocked down because there was that temporary wall put in for the drilling, which had to be done. But outside of that temporary wall, the existing wall wasn't touched.
The existing wall,
Outside
I went
the-
out there to inspect the whole situation, because we ended up getting a consultant to come in about the well. We didn't like the way the well was being handled. We got Bob Francis from Westminster to come in and actually consult with us. And then at that point, we knew we were doing the right thing. That wall was disturbed when I went there. And then the second time I went there, the wall was removed completely. And I was surprised. I said, what's that trench? Why are you digging a trench? And finally, I figured it out. The wall was there, and now it's not. So that did happen that way. And I do have pictures of it as well.
My only other comment is regarding the trees, just for future. Personally, replacing those 5 trees with 5 trees is nowhere near replacing what was there. Again, the pictures I have, all of those trees have nice vegetation on them, so I'm not sure what dead looks like then, because they all have nice leaves.
So all I can tell you is what I was told, and if you want Mr. Nikitas to come to the meeting with me, be happy to have him. I don't know him, quite frankly. The trees, from the perspective at the pond, looking at the site on the left-hand side, there were 2 big ones.
Yeah, I'm looking at them right here, and they have a lot of leaves on them.
I haven't seen, I saw your pictures.
Yeah, if you-
They were drilled, and they were determined to be hollow. They were cut.
They did
I have
drill
pictures.
to determine the condition of the trunk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have pictures of that, and I can share them with you as well. I do not believe, if you're on the lake looking at the site on the right, they were not dead, but the roots were
no.
disturbed.
This is-
So they took those down. I have no issues recommending my client and you guys putting a condition, plant them again. I mean, we're not gonna plant 24 to 30-inch diameter trees. That's not happening. However, we'll do the right thing and we'll plant some trees. There's no question about it. The owner did not want those down, for what it's worth.
All right, I'm open to other suggestions, but myself, I feel that it has to be treated as an amendment to order conditions.
I don't have an issue
Yeah.
myself with that personally. All I'm saying is that under enforcement,
Yep.
if Jamie can actually get the shots of what's out there now done, under enforcement, we can bring it back in like in next meeting if he's able to do so, to review it and keep the process going that way. And then, once we see what's there, he files the amendment.
Bringing it back to your
Yeah, but
original
maybe-
conditions is, I think, what you want.
Yeah.
And we have no issues bringing it back to your original conditions. If you're under the enforcement order, you can basically say, Jamie, come in with a plan in 2 weeks and bring it back to the original conditions as issued by the commission and Matt. We can resolve this at the next meeting, not a problem. Because we're not asking to do anything more than that, to be honest with you. If I determine the elevation of the top of wall is pre-existing for any construction, and I have the top of wall now, and I tell you it's 24 inches, well, then 24 inches of the wall is coming out. If I determine that 8 feet of the wall has to come out towards the step because we have a shot and 8 feet comes out, and that can be easily done, and the project moves forward. This was a contractor doing a few things that he wasn't authorized to do, but in his mind, he was doing the right thing. Administratively, he did the wrong thing, and we all know that. So all I want to do is bring it back to the original conditions, that's it, not a problem. We're not asking for any more. If we were asking for more, I personally would agree with you, notify the abutters and get them out.
In front of that, I think more what Todd's saying is that if we end up with a better solution because of the higher wall and things like that, then we can consider this erosion protection. But what you're suggesting then is if you come in, we like what we see, at least we lift the order, restraining order in terms of further construction.
Well, I wouldn't lift the order until the work's done. You just give them the okay to do the work. You can even agree to the plan, and then, if you want, administratively have the amendment filed to give the public a chance to give their input.
Well, and I'm reading between the lines here, but you can't start the building process until you know that this wall is satisfactory.
So we
You
can
Okay.
pour the foundation.
Yep.
We can get that going. We're gonna get the building permit. What I suggest to you, and
Yep.
again, I'll do whatever you want, but what I suggest to you is, in the enforcement order, issue a condition. Bring the wall back to the original conditions of the order issued by Matt to the commission. I will come in with a plan in 2 weeks to make sure that happens. And then, if you then at that point allow us to move forward to fix the wall, we will fix the wall immediately. Eric Sapone will be out there and he'll take a course off, he'll take 7 or 8 feet off, and we'll reveal it back into the slope and we're done. But between now and that happens, we can pour the foundation and get everything going up top. We can have that conversation about erosion, that's fine with me. However, that's not the important thing for me, quite frankly.
So right now, the building inspector is saying you can't move ahead.
We didn't ask the building inspector, so we got the building permit signed by the Board of Health,
Oh, okay.
which I think was the last signature we needed, and now we're ready to move forward.
So you don't, do you have an application for the building permit?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But you haven't,
So the application, the building permit app went in, we had to drill the well, test it, quality, quantity, everything was fine. We were all set to go, and then the Board of Health brought up the bedroom count, right? So I dealt with that a couple of weeks ago, we got the sign off, that's all taken care of. Once we have, now we can move forward. Then this happened, right? So all I'm suggesting is allow us to move forward with the foundation in the building, and we're not gonna start framing anytime soon, because we gotta do the wall before we do that. But we can get the foundation in, we can get the top graded, and then we can resolve this wall in 2 weeks. It's only gonna take a week's
I'm
worth
open
of...
to suggestions on how to proceed. I mean, we certainly can add to the enforcement order the caveat of presenting a plan that replaces, that shows us the wall going back to existing conditions.
Back to the...
The wall and the surrounding area and grading.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, yep.
That's fine, that's simple.
Okay?
So the grading's important too, because that's changed quite a bit. If you put the foundation, whatever work you're planning to do, you'll still be able to get in there and remove a course if you have to?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Across the whole length?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I'll have that conversation myself with Eric, just to make sure that, yes, I believe it can be done. Yeah.
All right, so at this point, Matt's going to recommend issuing the enforcement order, ordering the plan to replace, or make sure that the wall is as was existing and the grading as was existing,
And the trees, what about the trees?
and the
Oh,
grading and surrounding area
Surrounding area.
to be returned to as pre-existing.
Yep. And then at that meeting, I'll have a plan to accomplish exactly that. And depending upon what I find, I might have a plan B to take it, with respect to the height, with respect to the erosion. And quite frankly, it doesn't matter to me either way, but I don't know that until I shoot it. We'll talk about it then.
myself, if we're handling under enforcement, it would be back to existing.
Back to the
No plan B.
email, right? Sure. Yep.
Well, I don't remember the email exactly.
The
but
email
back-
basically said, no change in height, no change in lateral extent.
Yep, back to existing conditions.
Yep. And then if we want to add a block and come in, re-advertise and do the, perfect. Yeah, that's what I asked for, so that's
All right.
fantastic. Yeah.
So I'll accept
Great.
the motion to accept, to move forward with an enforcement order on 70 Oak Ridge Road.
So moved.
Second. Motion and second, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Welcome back, Jamie.
He said he's just getting ready to go again.
Well, I saw my old project on there, Pleasant Street. I don't have to stick around for that. do I?
I would recommend not.
Honestly, he's not done yet, so.
Yeah.
Want to move forward, signing that?
I haven't done any work since then. They'll continue on doing this thing, which is great. And we'll see what happens. I know the bond issue was an issue, but
Just getting it renewed.
Yeah.
That was all. We
Yeah, yeah.
finally got the paperwork that,
Peter DeColi from Choice Insurance is fantastic.
yeah, I think that's what we needed for that.
Excellent. Everybody have a great night.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
Absolutely.
I have nothing for 667 Reservoir Road now on our agenda.
I thought it was under my action items for
No,
reports.
unfortunately, there's not much we can do on it.
Well, you guys had asked him to come back with original photos. For his beach. For existing condition.
All right, can we accept?
You can accept it under public
Discuss
comment,
this?
because you had asked him to come back.
Was it a hearing or what was it?
No, he just came up under public comment to begin with.
Okay. All right, well, we can handle another agent items. Meeting with consulting forester. So Matt has issued the, Matt and Adam, issued the purchase order, the work order for Gary to move forward. He's looking to come before us, I believe, the first meeting in September, to have a public hearing on it, advertise it, and move forward.
August 30th.
August 30th.
We asked him.
Did he send
He
it?
hasn't sent me back a
Okay.
response yet, but
I did ask him about doing it on August 30th, which was our 5th Wednesday of the month, so it would be an off meeting. Matt's supposed to check on making sure we can get the, public meeting room. So it'll either be then or it'll be the first meeting in September. All right, status of inspections 101 Pleasant. Actually, we'll take up 667 Reservoir.
right now.
Yep, under agent's report.
What was the background on this? I'm at a loss.
My name is David King. My wife and I, Fiona.
Oh, yes, okay, I remember that. He's just chatting with us about some ideas for 667 Reservoir Road. Just getting some input.
This is your existing conditions
67.
on that property that you have already approved. Brought them so that you had them. What you asked me to do, I have copies for all of you, but I have a nice big one that's much easier to read. What you asked me to do is to get some aerial shots of what the property was before any work was done to it. So this is
Thanks for the long printer.
Yes. So this is the first aerial shot right here, which shows an area right here that was originally sand. This is the area that we have purchased, that's the property, those are the property lines. So the next step is I went in and I put a mark around it so we'd know exactly how big that mark is. Then I duplicated that mark 4 times to show you that it fills the area pretty much almost perfectly. So this is about 25% of the existing property had sand on it. I'm asking if you allow me to do exactly that, put 25% sand in there with some type of a border of whatever tile, brick, rock, whatever you feel is appropriate. And then I also, at the last meeting, we talked about the tiki hut that was outside of the 50-foot zone, and I wanted to show you that I went and drew that in so you can see where that is on the aerial map.
So your proposal will be removing this portion of sand and moving it to here?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, there is no sand there because you had Mr. Gogan put all dirt in there. And I'm gonna take the dirt out of this area, put it on the hill, we're gonna plant, grasses and that kind of stuff to stop the hill from eroding away.
Yep.
And then put 25% sand back, which is exactly what was there before.
Where's the property line?
Here's the property lines right here.
This is a pretty old picture,
Yes, it is.
because this is all green all through here now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, and there's trees and everything, so.
I'm sorry, we said the property line is the red?
Well, the whole property line goes up here.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Where's there's a straight line that goes somewhere here, right, that goes up?
Yes, it's this line that
It's
follows.
this line?
Yes,
Okay.
and it goes straight up. I just
Great.
didn't carry it the whole way up, because
Yeah,
I wanted to show
I'm trying to
you
understand
from the,
approach.
as soon as it
Oh, I
gets to level, I wanted to show you the level area, because that's
Yeah.
really the important area.
Got it.
Definitely shows a wall, too. This wall here.
Shows it pretty nice, actually.
Got a quick.
If you don't mind me asking, what year was the photo?
I don't know. It was the one when I was at the meeting last, it's the one you brought up, and I went to that exact one, which comes from the town, so I don't know how old it is, but it's gotta be old. And then what I did, just to make you comfortable, I went right there in the water, and I scooped out, and that's what's in the water. It's sand.
Sand, right.
And the same sand, I'm not bringing sand in. Gogan is excavating his foundation, and funny enough, the whole thing is sand, so I'm going to use the sand from the lot and use it there so that I'm not bringing any material outside of, it's all native.
I don't have a problem with that.
The only thing I would suggest is getting the dates. I'm not sure how far back it is, just to make sure that the proof here that this beach is in place doesn't preclude our bylaws.
Well, it's from your town map. This is where I got this. This is your GIS map, so I don't know what your GIS, I don't know when it. so I
Okay, this
got
was from the assessors?
Yeah.
It should have the datum on there, though. So you have to just, I mean, in looking at it, the area looks nothing like this now. It's all treed. So my feeling,
I
my
would say
fear
your
is
GIS
this
is a
was,
little old.
my fear is this could be decades old.
Wow.
I mean, looking at it from what's there, yeah.
Decades, I'm sure it's more than decades.
Yeah,
From
so I
looking at
mean,
it.
Of course,
if this is the only proof that we had that the beach was there.
Of course, we've considered replacing walls with pictures that are decades old.
Sure.
So I don't see how this would be substantially different.
What I'm, basically what you're saying is that that is the area of this.
See this right here?
Yeah,
Okay, so that's this.
yeah.
And then I made this 4 of these, and then I twisted them around to see if I could get it. You see, this is outside the wall, so essentially, that is 25% of this area. This area is exactly 2,400 square feet right there.
So does that white area equals that area?
Exactly.
Okay, so it just doesn't really matter, I just don't understand the significance of the percent of what defines this block and why the percent's important.
So right now, this line here is, as you come on the property has a big hill in the back.
Right.
And right now, on Gogan's side, you guys have made of putting a retaining wall. At the edge of that line, where it levels off and goes toward the water, I started right there where
Okay.
where the silt fence is, because I wanted to take something that was fair and reasonable.
I think if the area is equal is what's important.
Now, in
So
all
it's a
fairness,
percentage of
this might
something.
not be exactly 2,400 square feet, but I'm requesting 2,400 because that's exactly 25%, which matches exactly what was there. So I'm not changing anything, I just want to, I just don't want it to be that little weird design, as you can understand. And
Using
since
the
I'm
same
taking out
soil.
dirt that they put in,
Yeah.
I'm putting back what's native.
That's permeable, is all.
Yeah, I mean, really can't deliberate too much on it, but it looks like your logic is sound for presenting this.
Thank you. I try to be logical. And I know that you have an existing condition where you're already letting Paul put in a retaining wall and do all that work. So when we discussed it a couple days ago, Matt said that this isn't really a new thing, this is just a slight tweak to what's already being approved.
Just on that drawing, where's the property line on the other side?
I wouldn't call it a tweak. I'm
This
just
right
saying
here.
you might
This and this is the property line on both ends.
So those are the 2 property lines that go back?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this one goes up weird and goes like this and goes like
Oh,
this.
I
and
mean,
into
he
the
certainly
driveway.
is gonna have to file.
Yeah.
something for
So,
it.
so just, Richard, just because this is the next door neighbor.
Correct.
So this wall has nothing to do with this property?
Correct.
Okay.
You're absolutely correct. And
And it
that's,
shows how old it is, because there isn't even a house there in that drawing, in that picture.
yeah, he's right around in there somewhere. And then there's a driveway over here and I was quite looking down.
There's several houses there now that are not in that picture.
I know that my new property, I own the neighbor's driveway. And most of his parking area.
The adjacent?
I was thinking of putting a toll booth on.
It's some gigantic. But either way. Right.
So I tried to be sensible and logical and practical.
And when you do make a proposal, what will the shore look like? What will the shore be?
Well, I don't know that. That's a good
Looks like
question.
that's
So you
2008.
gave Paul permission,
His photo.
obviously transferred to me, to put a retaining wall in. I'm going to seek.
Not true.
That clarity.
Got a wall.
2008 or 2011.
No, we gave no permission for a wall. It was specifically removed from the approval.
Well, we asked Paul to
Okay.
basically, I might be in the wrong site, never mind, I'm thinking the wrong place.
We'll just have to look at what the approved order was and.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. He just said that
And
we're
we'll
allowed to
ha-
put something to stop the water from washing.
Yes, oh, yeah, for sure.
I don't know what this.
Remediating.
We had him,
Right.
he was back wall.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to call it retaining wall. I don't know what to call it. I just know the railroad ties there
Pile of
now.
rocks.
Yeah, I know the railroad ties now, and I don't want railroad ties, because those are disgusting.
Yep.
And I'm not gonna take them out, because I don't want to disturb them. But since there's already a nice foundation of railroad ties this way, going out into the water, I figured whatever I got would stack along there, either natural rocks or whatever you think is best.
These older ones,
It doesn't really matter to me, just whatever makes sense, you know?
they're way too.
So this will just be filed as an amendment to the existing order, correct?
You can see the grassy area right here.
That picture back up for one quick second.
Which one?
Oh, this one, I'm sorry.
I forgot your name. No, go back a picture, man. So the lot must have been redrawn from what you had here, because that dock is right smack dab. And the line that he has as his property line is not his property line. The beach is not on his property. That's the,
It looks a lot bigger than.
but go out one more, Matt. Go out one more, Matt. See the deck, the dock?
Yeah.
The dock is in the middle of the property, which would lead me to believe that the property line's here is your property. But we'll have to, I mean, that'll have to be on a plan. But just in looking at it here, that's the property,
It's the next door neighbor.
that deck. This is the next door neighbors, or that's his
That
property?
yellow is the next door neighbor.
Oh, okay. Okay, but then it still, it has the beach.
This is what's six,
That's what I'm saying.
this is what's listed as 60.
Yeah, that beach is going over on the neighbor's property.
Yeah.
Because this is Camp David here.
Okay.
And this is where he chopped the hill, and this is where we had it restored.
All right, so I guess at this point, we'll just need to see it on a plan
Yeah.
as an amendment to the order of conditions.
So what do I need to do?
See if you can have it added to your existing, do you have it added already to your existing plot plan?
I don't know how to do that.
Okay. Unfortunately, neither do we, so.
I don't even know what this, I mean, I'm looking at this and this is Greek to me, unfortunately, so. I mean, it's, I know what these are trees, I don't know what the rest of this all is.
Okay.
Contact the civil engineer.
Yep. Yeah, the engineer that drew the plans out for Paul.
Okay.
And see if he can add in
The
the
beach area.
detail that you have.
Okay.
And submit it.
All right, so
That's
then he,
Hannigan Engineering.
okay, so I go to them and they just go and they modify this.
Tell them what you
thing.
want to do, and then they can capture what you want to do on the plan as proposed.
Oh, okay,
And it probably shouldn't be too expensive, because they already have everything shot out.
yeah, and then come back to the next meeting.
Come see me, and then we'll put you on for an amendment hearing,
Okay,
and we can get it solidified officially that way.
all right, perfect, okay. Got
All
it.
right, super.
Thanks, gentlemen.
It's a lot going in the right direction, so.
Thank you.
All right.
Fine. As a
I
homeowner,
appreciate you coming forward.
No, it's definitely the right way to do it.
not an engineer, but I've got pretty pictures.
Good pictures. All right, moving forward.
Thank you.
Matt, 101 Pleasant here. Just to move things along.
101 Pleasant, well, we had a meeting on that with Adam
Yep.
and Danny Gardner, and we went over the items that need to be addressed, came up with a punch list, sent it to Danny. State Forester still is not allowing any work to proceed until he's got an indication we're satisfied. Dan's got a lot of work to do. The bond has been renewed, and we have an official renewed copy of the bond on file.
Did the bond,
The bond was, the bond termination would have been in October.
right, but they also, the bond had a schedule with regard to what would be completed.
No, the bond itself,
The bond was to cover the cost of the remediation, removing the road.
Right, and just the road.
Well, the road and the stream
But we'd
crossing.
also
Stream
established
crossing.
the schedule, I was
Yes,
under the
yes, and
impression
he
that,
still is working on the schedule.
and if he didn't meet that, then we would hit the bond, but the fact is the bond was just too short, so that's why we're going ahead and having the bond extended.
well, there was
Okay.
also the fact
Okay.
that the bond was for a year. And what we told, can I have that? What we told them was that if within 90 days of the bond expiration date, there was no action, or there was no indication that the bond was going to be renewed, we would have the right to cash it in. So when the 90 days came up, which was just after, well, it was right around my vacation time, I sent an email over to Danny Gardner, basically growling at him about it. And the result was, while I was gone, because I know Rich worked on it with the insurance guy.
Yeah, so basically, we have it renewed for another year. It's been paid for, we have the binder from the, so the bond is renewed, because that was one of the tenets of the order conditions.
We did not
He is-
back away from the schedule at all?
He is
We
working,
didn't have to-
well, the schedule was not dated, he has 3 years under his order of conditions to perform the work. But he couldn't start the forestry, which was step 4 of the schedule, until steps 1, 2, 3 were completed.
Okay.
To,
And he keeps trying to pull the trigger, feeling us out, saying he's done, and we keep telling him he's not.
yes, so we met with him, Adam, Matt, myself, and brought those deficiencies to his attention. So he still has work to do before he can move forward with the forestry.
We
So
also
which step is he on? I've lost track. Of one,
You
two,
know, he's
three.
kind of in 1, 2, and 3. He's done some of 1, some of 2, some of 3. He did replace the culverts under the stream. He did that in the fall, so the stream sizing is proper.
Good.
He still has not stabilized any of the open gravel area from the right-of-way through where the gravel pit was. The gravel pit's been filled in, but it's still just all
Yeah.
bare gravel, so he still has to stabilize all of that. There is still debris within the 100-foot coming off of Pleasant Street that he hasn't removed yet, and there is still some remediation and stabilization inside the 30-foot that was supposed to be done.
And then he tried throwing, like in the last few weeks, tried throwing the wicks in, going on the access road real crudely.
Yes, and they just,
They
they weren't doing anything. All the water was still being held above, so.
So what,
He knows he's got more work to do.
but are we allowing him to work on step 3, even though he hasn't finished 1 and 2?
Well, they're kind of all the same.
Oh, I thought he had to go in order.
Yes, but the major milestone was to get to the locking. So he had done the crossing, which was part of step 2, part of step 3. He's done most of the remediation, which was part of step 1.
Okay.
So
He's just left a punch list of stuff not completed that we're making them complete.
Okay. So my,
Well, it's fairly stable, he still has stabilization to
So
do.
in
That's
summary, we've got a
cleanup.
punch list of directions for him to follow, a renewed bond, and a reaffirmation from the state forester that he ain't touching a twig
okay.
until he's done.
So where are we with the fine?
The fine, Matt and Adam had met with town council, and they're moving forward with it.
Okay.
I gave town council,
The new
well,
town
through
council.
Adam, I gave Adam asked me, the new town council was looking for a PDF of, the order of conditions and all, and the fines. So I sent the order of conditions as Adam requested
Yeah.
to him, and he sent it to town council. Town council was looking into it.
Looking into, what, a lien, or looking into what?
Collecting, going to court to collect the fine.
But don't we have the ability under the recently passed state laws to remove, to pull back or the permit if he doesn't pay the fine? Isn't he overdue, and can't we just simply say, pay the fine, or we pull the permit? Because going to court's expensive.
The last I checked on that bylaw, the one that was just passed was a couple of weeks ago, my understanding was we still don't have the sign-off from the Attorney General yet. Because I asked about that.
So the clock hasn't started ticking yet
Clock hasn't
on the
started.
60
Okay,
days.
so, but can we discuss and hopefully agree that when that is in place, that's the action we take? Because that's free. Going to court is not free.
When we have
And-
the
or
option,
quick.
we can certainly, yes, when we have the option, we will certainly discuss it.
Okay.
At this
So
point,
we've confirmed, though, that that would give us, once it's signed off by the Attorney General or whoever signs it off, it would give us the ability to have that option.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And the thing is too, is he thinks he's gonna put a subdivision in there. And if he hasn't paid his fine with this new regulation, good luck.
Well, I think if he hasn't paid his fine and the new regulations signed off, then we use that tool to,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
In a
well, we
different
won't be
way,
the only
but
ones
it's-
using the tool, because it'll be a fine to the town of Lunenburg, so all permits would be in arrears. All right, so, still a work in progress. It's getting there, but... And 155 Reservoir, Matt?
That project I inspect almost every day. It's still going well. We still have one abutter who has expressed concerns about drainage. She's still expressing those concerns. I know Adam has very eloquently addressed her concerns because her particular concerns are outside the riverfront, so they're out of our jurisdiction.
Okay.
But the lots have been going very well. The as-bills, progress as-bills that Whitman and Bingham have been working on are done. Jamie told me that he's plotting out the data for that, so we should have those shortly.
and is that for all 10 or just any particular ones? I
All the
know
ones that are built.
all the ones.
All right.
Good.
Any other questions or comments on Matt's reports? All right, seeing none, we'll move forward with communications. Any communications, Matt?
No, we just have our next meeting is August 2nd.
Our next meeting will be August 2nd at the Riddle Memorial.
I got stuff for you guys to sign off.
All right.
We can do that after.
Matt, I have
Pass that along now.
question on the meeting that was continued at 225 Sunset Lane. Did they just,
69.
were they just unable to attend and they're gonna move forward on the next meeting?
No, what happened was there was a glitch in the newspaper advertisement. And they're just coming to the next meeting. He actually, when I spoke to him about moving it up, he was actually still on a plane or getting on a plane from Florida, so he might not have been able to make it anyway.
I suggest we put that one on the site visits, even though we made it out there, some of us made it out there last.
Yeah, not a problem.
I think whoever can get out there and see it, because when you see it and look at it, when you have the plans and you figure out what they're gonna do, it will impact how you view the site.
Great. Thank you for suggesting that. I'll definitely make it.
And I will not be able to make that site visit. I will be moving a family member down to New Jersey.
I will not be able to make it either.
I will.
I will be here for the 2nd, but I won't be here for the 29th. And for that matter, I won't be here on the 16th.
I can't believe it.
I will
Yeah,
not
the
be present. Yeah, I will not be present for the 16th.
This is Dan Proctor, 331 Real Burridge.
See, they already started doing stuff.
Do we have any updates on potential commissioners?
Oh, great
We
question.
had a couple of candidates both withdrew for personal reasons.
Did they watch a meeting on TV?
They know when it's 11 or every other Saturday shot, the hell?
390 electric.
Well, I have one that she's been helping me out with turtle sign locations. And she was the one that was responsible for putting the turtle signs at the crossings around town. She's taken the signs in because it's now the end of breeding season. She was considering joining, but she's probably got a lot to do. And she's still going to volunteer to help us out with the turtle crossing signs. I just got the new Diamond Street signs in from Voss Signs. I'm gonna have BPW put up in cooperation with the project. That project went off well. The signs got really noticed, people started asking questions. It was a wonderful effort.
Matt, could you elaborate a little? You see, saying the signs are being taken in?
She has signs, they look like campaign signs.
Yeah, I've seen the turtle signs, yeah, yeah.
We had them out
Right.
while the turtles were in breeding and
We'll need to get another signature. I can't
Oh,
sign it.
you're saying the turtles don't cross the road when other than breeding time? This is news
No,
to
they
me.
cross the road, but they're more likely to do it during breeding season.
Yeah, okay.
So, there are certain times of the year they're really vulnerable in large numbers, so she's taking them in now and then putting them back up next spring.
It's kind of like rutting season, you know? Those deer run
Yeah,
in
there you
front of
go.
those cars.
Yeah, I
Just don't
yeah, I
see
didn't-
anything else beyond what they want to see.
All right, any other public comment from the commission?
Just a comment to keep it on the table here, is if we can, if Matt can get time to reorganize our files on the cloud to get them by address, because it really is a pain trying to figure out where to go find.
Yep, I was talking with Matt just this morning about that.
Oh, great.
Trying to get it set up by
Super.
DEP number and then get it linked into the meeting folders. So then we can continually add items in. Makes it a lot easier than having it sectionalized by meeting.
Yeah, you've done a lot. I mean, look at where we are. We're light years ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
We've
yeah.
done tremendous things, and I think that,
Well, I appreciate that, Jack.
Yeah, really,
It's
honestly.
been a team effort. We've
oh,
all
yeah,
contributed.
we're doing good. We're doing good. And if you could just slip in, where I'm having a hard time is, I know you and Carl are going back, something comes out, and then at the very end of the day, I really don't know, and I know there's a delay in getting things put up on the town piece, but if we could just sit those minutes, the word minutes, into that file you've got created by each meeting, that would be really helpful to me, and especially when I try to go back, and it's not there, it's not there. So, those are my only thoughts, but I do agree with Carl, and you've done a great job.
Just to clarify, maybe I misunderstood, Richard. You said organized by DEP number as
Yes.
opposed to address?
Yes.
So how will we find out?
Well, the DP number will be the first and then the address will be.
Oh, so we'll be able to search by address?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Which, I mean, you can kind of
Almost
search
like
by
making-
address
almost
now.
like making
If
it
you
more
just
of
put
a
it in, it'll bring up every
database.
folder and every file that has that address. If you go
I
into...
can try that in the meantime?
Yeah,
I didn't-
yeah, if you go in there and type Lake Shirley...
Yeah.
It will bring up every single document that has Lake Shirley on it. So you can search through the entire
By address, so put in
LCC.
675 Reservoir.
If you put in 675, it'll bring up
It'll bring
every
up every
document with
document.
675, every folder with 675.
Okay.
Which still makes it a little harder because we've got so many instances of it, but they're in meeting folders rather than just in their own database.
Yeah.
All right, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.